I had not even passed the 35-day mourning period after my death when my husband remarried. He cried to the outside world, saying, "It's all for the child. Without a woman at home, it's inconvenient to take care of our daughter." But then he turned around and fawned over his new wife, saying, "I love you so much. How could I bear to let you be a stepmother?" As a result, our 5-year-old daughter was sent to be fostered in a remote rural area. She drank well water when she was thirsty and ate dirt when she was hungry. In the icy and snowy weather, a lewd old bachelor was tearing at my daughter's small cotton, padded jacket. "Don't scream, keep quiet. I'll take you to find your mother in a while." I was so anxious that I was going crazy, but I was powerless. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day of the traffic accident. This time, I took the initiative to sit in the driver's seat. I left the passenger seat, which would soon be smashed to pieces by a truck, for my husband. "Darling, take a nap, I'll drive." The Wu Jianxiu in front of me was looking at me tenderly, stretching out his hand. I was in a trance for a moment. He urged with a puzzled look, "Give me the car keys, they're in your bag." Wu Jianxiu walked closer to me, and his face quickly overlapped with those terrifying scenes in my mind. I realized that I had been reborn. In my previous life, we had clinched a big deal. I was so happy that I wanted to go home and see my daughter quickly, but as soon as we passed the toll station, a car accident occurred. At the moment the truck hit, Wu Jianxiu jerked the steering wheel hard to the left. He turned the passenger seat towards the truck, and the stupid me subconsciously reached out my hand to protect him. The result was that I died, and he lived a carefree life. I took out the car keys from my bag and held them tightly in my hand. "It's okay, honey, you have a rest. I'll drive today, too." Wu Jianxiu stood there, looking at me suspiciously. "You don't like driving the most. Let me do it. I don't trust your driving skills." I ignored him and walked straight towards the driver's cab. He didn't know that I was a good driver. I didn't like driving, but it didn't mean I couldn't. After hesitating for a while, he opened the door of the passenger seat and got in. "Honey, drive slowly, don't use cruise control. I'm afraid you won't be able to react in case of an emergency." I suddenly wanted to tease him. "What if we have a car accident? Can you say something auspicious? I mean, what if I die, you'll remarry soon for sure?" "Absolutely not. If you leave, I'll follow you. You know I can't live without you." These words made me feel sick, but I endured it. "Come on, there's still our daughter. It's so pitiful if she has no one to take care of her." He thought seriously for a while. "Then I'll raise our daughter and then accompany you. It's meaningless to live without you." I laughed softly. In my previous life, I had always believed his lies. We were a famous model couple. When the young girls around us were looking for a partner, they would always say, "I want to find someone like brother-in-law. He's so family-oriented and loves you so much." I'm so envious. But no one knew that the model husband who everyone thought loved me to death would sacrifice my life to save his own at the critical moment, and would treat his own biological daughter worse than a beast. 3. In my previous life, after the car accident, I was seriously injured, while he only had a very shallow scratch. When waiting for the ambulance, I was so afraid of dying. I endured the fear in my heart and the severe pain in my body, and begged him bitterly, "Honey, save me, save me." He swore and hugged me. "Darling, I will definitely save you. I'll sell everything to save you." After that, I lost consciousness, but my soul body lingered around my body all the time. I heard the doctor say that as long as I persisted in treatment, I had a chance to recover, but the cost would be very high, if the conditions allowed. It was recommended to persist in treatment. After all, I was young and had a good foundation. I was so happy I could live, but the next second, Wu Jianxiu made me feel like I had fallen into hell. "Can you guarantee that you can save her? What if we lose both money and the person?" The doctor frowned and explained, "We can't guarantee 100% successful treatment. We can only say that the probability of recovering to the point of being able to take care of oneself is still very high." He sneered. "Take care of oneself? What does that mean? With sequelae, you hospitals just want to cheat the common people's money. She's already so seriously injured. Even if she's saved, she'll become a vegetable or be paralyzed in bed. What should I do? The person is still alive, but the money is gone. How can I live?" I watched with my own eyes as he signed the consent form to give up treatment. When my girlfriends and friends came to see me, he cried and said, "The doctor said that even if she's saved, she'll be a vegetable." I know Xiaoyan best. She definitely doesn't want to live without dignity. She came to me in a dream yesterday and asked me to let her go. I can't bear it. Without her, I don't want to live either. My friends comforted him instead, telling him to be strong and think about our daughter. I was filled with despair, screaming and shouting. I wanted to live. My daughter was still so young. I wanted to accompany her to grow up, but I couldn't express myself. The doctor removed my life support system and told Wu Jianxiu to say goodbye to me quickly. My soul returned to my body, and my life flashed back quickly. There was only one thing I couldn't let go of. I endured the last bit of consciousness and begged him bitterly, "Please, please raise our daughter well. tell her that her mother loves her forever. His face was covered with tears. As if he was really reluctant to part with me, he held my hand tightly. Don't worry, honey, I will definitely raise our daughter well. You can rest assured and go, for I died, and before the 35-day mourning period was over. He complained to his buddies that he was so lonely without a woman around. A friend congratulated him, saying, there are 3 great joys for a man: getting promoted, getting rich, and changing his wife. Not only did your wife clinch a big deal for you, but she also made room for you, brother. You're so lucky. I thought he would remarry, but I never expected it to be so soon. I watched him talk about cars, houses, and betrothal gifts with that young woman, finally. They talked about my daughter. The other party said, I will never be a stepmother. He couldn't wait to promise. Of course, we're still young. After we get married, we'll have a child of our own. So, my precious daughter became a hot potato. Wu Jianxu called his parents for help. His parents said they had no obligation to take care of his child. Yes, his parents had always been dissatisfied because I gave birth to a daughter. They were impossible to contribute money or effort, so Wu Jianxu found a distant relative he hardly knew and sent his daughter to be fostered in the countryside. I watched my daughter cry so hard that she almost couldn't breathe. She hugged his leg and called out, Dad, I don't want to go. I want Mom, Dad, Mom, Mom. At that moment, I finally knew that the dead could also have a broken heart. I wanted to curse him. You shameless bastard. You don't even want your own biological daughter. You're bewitched by that fox spirit. But what was the use? I couldn't make a sound and couldn't take up a weapon. I could only be anxious. 5. Thinking of this, I stepped on the accelerator hard. Wu Jianxu, who was almost asleep, was woken up by the sense of acceleration. Honey, why are you driving so fast? It's very dangerous. Get out quickly, let me drive. I ignored him and didn't reduce the force on my foot. Don't worry, I won't die. I want to accompany my daughter to grow up. Watch her go to college, get married, and watch her be happy all her life. Seeing the tears in my eyes, he was a little flustered. What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare last night? Of course, we'll accompany our daughter. I smiled. Yes, I would accompany my daughter, but without you. He looked at me. Are you nervous? Is this sweat or tears? He reached out his hand to help me wipe it, but I subconsciously turned my head to avoid it. Then my whole body tensed up. And I held the steering wheel tightly with both hands, because I saw it, right in front. The truck that had taken my life in my previous life was roaring towards me. 6. There was a loud bang and a violent impact. I was dizzy. I had an intuition that the impact force was even stronger than in my previous life. After a while, I woke up from the dizziness. There was a lot of noise around. One of Wu Jianxu's hands was resting on the edge of the seat, and blood had stained his entire sleeve red. The situation was exactly the opposite of my previous life. This time, he was lying on the ambulance with blood all over his face. He was moaning softly through his teeth. I couldn't hear clearly, but from his lip shape, I knew he was saying, Honey, save me. I held his hand tightly and pretended to be very anxious in front of the nurse. Honey, hold on. I will save you no matter what. I lowered my head, pressed my face against his, and whispered in his ear, I won't let you die. I'll make you wish you were dead. After arriving at the hospital, the traffic police quickly found me. When investigating the accident in my previous life, the police were also very puzzled. The subconscious reaction of most people is to turn the steering wheel to the right. If you turn the steering wheel to the right, maybe nothing will happen. Yes, in my previous life, if he had turned the steering wheel to the right, I wouldn't have died. But the probability of him getting injured would have been greater. It can only be said that people are all selfish. At the critical moment, they sacrifice their lover's life to save their own. I pretended to be very scared and couldn't say a word for a long time. The traffic police patted me on the shoulder to comfort me. Don't be too sad. The other party is fully responsible. There's insurance. Try your best to treat him. 7. At this time, the emergency doctor asked me, he's seriously injured. There's a sign of intracranial hemorrhage. It's hard to say whether he can wake up. The family members should be mentally prepared. I told the doctor firmly, treat him with all your might. Letting him die easily was too good for him. After settling things here, I immediately called my best friend, Xiaoying. In my previous life, even after I died, Xiaoying had always cared about my daughter. After going to my house several times and not seeing Nini, Xiaoying slapped the table with Wu Jianxiu. Where on earth have you sent Duyan's child? I sent her to my parents' house. What's wrong? Do I have to report to you where my daughter goes? Who the hell are you? You'd better have some humanity. What's wrong with me? I'm only in my 30s. Am I supposed to be a bachelor for Duyan for the rest of my life? Is that what you call humanity? Are you being reasonable? At that time, my soul body could move around freely, watching Nini suffer in the village. I wanted to ask my best friend for help several times, but unfortunately, she couldn't see me, but I once saw her crying while looking at our group photo in the dead of night. So, after being reborn, the first person I thought of was her. I could trust her 100%. She rushed to the hospital immediately after receiving the news. She thought I would be heartbroken, but unexpectedly, I was so calm. What I'm going to say next may be hard for you to accept, but you must believe me. My best friend was in the financial industry, and her husband was a lawyer. I needed their help to sell the company's accounts and transfer the marital property. Wu Jianqiu would eventually die. After his death, the first heirs to his estate were my child and his parents, and I wouldn't leave a single cent to his parents. 8. Wu Jianqiu was admitted to the ICU, and then I notified his parents. After his parents arrived and heard about my decision to treat him with all my might, they were very gratified. They cried and said, "Shushu didn't treat you well for nothing. You take good care of him. I believe Shushu will definitely get better." Although my mother-in-law treated me badly, she was wholeheartedly devoted to her son. As a mother myself, I should have sympathized with her, but thinking that my daughter had suffered so much because of her inaction, I was filled with hatred. I picked up my bag. Nini is still young. She can't be alone at night, so I'll leave the hospital to you. My mother-in-law looked at me in shock. "I'm so old. You want me to stay up all night to take care of him? The ICU doesn't need someone to accompany him all the time." Of course, Wu Jianqiu may die at any time. If you're not worried about not seeing him for the last time, you can leave. She slumped in the chair, with a tragic and broken expression. Of course, she wouldn't be at ease. Wu Jianqiu was the apple of her eye, the most precious thing to her. Even if it meant exhausting herself to death, she would wait anxiously at the door, and I asked Xiaoying to drive me home as fast as possible to see my daughter. When my daughter saw me, she ran towards me like a little swallow. She threw herself into my arms and called me Mama sweetly. My heart melted. I held her tightly, with tears streaming down my face. I couldn't speak. I could only promise in my heart, "Don't be afraid, baby, Mom is back. This time, Mom will accompany you to grow up well." 9. At night, my daughter fell asleep. I held her and kept looking at her. I was reluctant to sleep, and even reluctant to blink. Thinking of my daughter's experience in my previous life, I wished I could immediately go and strangle Wu Jianqiu. After taking several deep breaths, I managed to calm down. I couldn't be hasty. There were still many accounts to be settled and people to be avenged. In my previous life, Wu Jianqiu entrusted our daughter to a distant relative named Wu Xiulian. They agreed on a monthly living expense of 2,000 yuan. Wu Xiulian took out 1,800 yuan to play mahjong. The remaining 200 yuan was only enough to feed my daughter noodles or make some thin porridge with pickles. At first, my daughter couldn't eat it. She simply starved my daughter for 3 days. "You little brat, you're so spoiled. You're still being picky. Your mother is dead, and your father doesn't want you either. You think you're a little princess here. If you have the ability, don't eat." My daughter was so hungry that she picked up the soil clods on the ground and put them in her mouth. My heart ached so much that I was almost crazy. My daughter had never suffered like this before, when I was alive. The millet porridge was pureed and used to make dough, and then made into various small steamed buns in the shapes of animals. My daughter had small leather shoes and small skirts that were different every season. Her hair was decorated with beautiful bows. She was the most beautiful little princess in the kindergarten, but now, she was always in the mahjong parlor with Wu Xiulian. The people around her smoking made her cough. When she said she was thirsty, that woman waved her hand. "Take a ladle and go outside to find water to drink." I watched my daughter, in the cold weather, pick up a gourd, made ladle and scoop up raw water from the water tank and take a sip. The water was so cold that it made her cough even more severely. I really wanted to hug her. Her little face was flushed. She seemed to have a fever, but no one cared at all. Sometimes Wu Xiulian remembered to make a bowl of instant noodles for her. If she didn't remember, my daughter would have to endure hunger. Once, unable to stand my daughter's loud crying, Wu Xiulian slapped her in the face. "Cry, cry, cry. If it weren't for you, this little jinx, could I have lost so much money today?" A neighbor said. "Look at how hungry you've made the child. Her father gave you money. Why don't you make something for the child to eat?" The little money her father gave is not enough for anything, and he still wants me to take care of such a young child. Do you know how much a nursery worker makes in the city? At least 8,000 yuan. He wants to send me away with 2,000 yuan? The neighbor laughed. "Hey, little girl, your parents don't want you anymore. You'll grow up in this village from now on. I'll find you a husband. When you grow up, don't forget my kindness to you. Share half of the bride price with me." "Okay." The people around burst into laughter. Someone else said, "I think this girl looks pretty good. Why not marry her to my family? She can get married at 18, live with us first. Once she gives birth to a son, we'll register when she reaches the legal age." "What if she gives birth to a daughter?" "If she gives birth to a daughter, that won't do. If she gives birth to a daughter, you'll have to leave in a month. 30 days exactly." The few women around burst into another round of laughter. My daughter looked around blankly and then lowered her head, murmuring, "Dad, Mom," softly. My heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. I wished I could rush up and tear their mouths apart. Wu Xiulian was very impatient. "Stop talking about your parents. Your mother is a short-lived ghost, and your father is not a good person either." The people around clicked their tongues in pity. "Once there's a stepmother, there will be a stepfather." "That's really true." "Yes, that's really true. It's all my fault. All my fault. I died without a care, but I hurt my daughter." 10. At that time, I was by her side every day. I wanted to say to her, Nini, don't be afraid, Mom is always here, watching you. I just can't kiss you or hug you, but Mom is always with you. Please be strong. When you grow up a bit, there won't be so many people bullying you. I prayed that as time passed, my girlfriends and friends would eventually notice something was wrong and perhaps come to rescue my daughter, but I watched helplessly as one midnight, an old bachelor in the village carried my daughter away. My daughter struggled and screamed. He covered her mouth with his hand. Girl, don't scream, your mother is right over there. As long as you keep quiet, I'll take you to find her. My daughter stopped screaming. The old bachelor was tearing at my daughter's small cotton, padded jacket, and she didn't make a sound. I knew she missed her mother. I knew how much she missed me. The look of expectation in her eyes burned through me. I wanted to shout, scream, baby, call for help, let go of my daughter. I was so anxious that I was going crazy, but I was powerless. Suddenly, a white light flashed, and I woke up, covered in cold sweat. 11. Wu Jianxu's condition was not optimistic. He had been on a ventilator for several days, but still had no spontaneous breathing. The doctor said that his trachea needed to be incised and once again told me that the rescue was actually meaningless. His parents were in a panic and began to waver, but I firmly said, cut it. Because I knew that his soul body was hovering nearby, just like me in my previous life. I wanted him to witness his own suffering with his own eyes. After the tracheotomy, even if he regained consciousness, he could no longer speak. The day he was transferred out of the ICU, I saw him for the first time. His head was shaved bald, a nasogastric tube was inserted into his nose, his trachea was cut open, and a urinary catheter was inserted under his body. He was so thin that he was just skin and bones. I called him softly, and he slowly opened his eyes. The doctor said it was already a miracle that he had regained consciousness, but he was completely paralyzed and couldn't move. My mother-in-law cried heart-rendingly in distress, but I couldn't help but want to laugh. It was just what I wanted. After calming down, my mother-in-law started to formally discuss with me the issue of Wu Jianxu's care. I firmly stated that I had to take care of the child and had no time. My mother-in-law, who had always maintained a harmonious facade, cursed at me. You're his wife. If you don't take care of him, who will? You always use the child as an excuse. What's the use of putting so much effort into a little girl? If Shishu dies, our Wu family will be without an heir. You take good care of him. If he recovers, you can still have another child. I almost burst out laughing. Even to this day, they were still dreaming of having a grandson. I suddenly lifted the quilt off Wu Jianxiu, revealing his injured lower body. I'm sorry, Mom, his thing for passing on the family line was damaged. I told the doctor that saving his life was the most important thing, so we cut it off. My mother-in-law stared blankly at Wu Jianxiu's lower body. Her eyes rolled up, and she fainted on the spot. 12. On the day of his discharge, I hired a private ambulance and directly sent Wu Jianxiu to my mother-in-law's house. My mother-in-law refused to open the door. I asked the workers to remove the stretcher, carried Wu Jianxiu and put him on the ground in front of my mother-in-law's door, then turned around and left. No mother could bear to see her son suffer so much. My mother-in-law wiped her tears, cursed at me, and took care of her son day and night. But it wasn't long before I heard that the old couple was so exhausted that they could hardly straighten their backs. Taking care of a paralyzed person requires turning him over, patting his back, suctioning phlegm, and feeding liquid food every day. They couldn't sleep all night. The next time I saw my father-in-law and mother-in-law, the old man and the old woman had become visibly thinner, with sunken eye sockets. My mother-in-law, who had always been so arrogant, begged me pitifully, Xiaoyan, you're young after all, please take care of Shishu, we really can't take it anymore, Mom will pay the expenses, as long as you can take over. I lowered my head and thought for a while, okay, Dad, Mom, but I have one condition. My mother-in-law's eyes lit up. What condition? I want you to transfer the ownership of this house to Nini. As expected, the old woman flew into a rage. So you've been eyeing my money? I smiled. Don't say it like that. You only have Nini as your granddaughter. Isn't it normal to leave the house to her? I knew that my father-in-law was a person who always favored his younger brother and had deeply ingrained patriarchal ideas. My father-in-law had a nephew, and his nephew had also given birth to a son. I was worried that after they passed away, they might leave their inheritance to the boys in the Wu family. They were old. Sparing their lives was already my mercy, but I had to fight for the greatest rights for Nini. 13. After a few days of deadlock, my father-in-law and mother-in-law agreed. After completing the transfer procedures, I took Wu Jianxiu away. He squinted at me, whining and groaning. It seemed like he was saying, darling, you're the best. I knew you wouldn't leave me alone. I rented a dilapidated house in a community 20 kilometers away from home and settled Wu Jianxiu there. Then, relying on my memories from my previous life, I managed to find Wu Xiulian in the countryside. I told her that I planned to hire her long-term, paying her 4,000 yuan a month to take care of Wu Jianxiu for me. That greedy woman was overjoyed and rushed here by train overnight. At night, I held my daughter in my arms and told her the story of the big bad wolf and the big bad wolf. She raised her little face innocently. Mom, you told it wrong. It's the story of the big bad wolf and the little white rabbit. I kissed her with a smile. How can the little white rabbit defeat the big bad wolf? The best way to deal with a bad person is to find another bad person. A greedy and vicious gambler like Wu Shoulian was the most suitable person to take care of Wu Jianqiu. 14. Wu Shoulian herself was even more disgusting than I remembered in my previous life. She had a mouthful of yellow teeth and a strong smell of tobacco on her body. Afraid that I would dislike her, she fawned on me, saying, "Younger sister. We rural people don't pay much attention to those things, but I'm very careful when I work. Just leave my big cousin to me, don't worry." I endured the nausea and held the hand she stretched out. "Sister, I'm entrusting my husband to you completely. I'm busy with work, and the child is still young. I can't come often. Please take more trouble." I carefully explained to her the daily care process for Wu Jianqiu. Apparently, she didn't remember, she didn't ask, and I didn't say it a second time. After all, she could take care of him however she wanted. After that, whenever I had time, I would enjoy the miserable situation of Wu Jianqiu through the monitor. Wu Jianqiu's face was distorted, and he made sounds. Wu Shoulian was sound asleep beside him, woken up by his sounds. She slapped him hard. "Who the hell are you calling? I lost all my money playing cards. It's all your fault. You're always whining. If you make a sound again, I'll poison you dumb with a whole bottle of medicine." Wu Jianqiu really didn't dare to make a sound. Not long after, the sound of slaps came from the monitor again. "Pa, you peed again. Even though you're like this, it doesn't stop you from peeing. Stop drinking water. You pee right after you drink. And you shit right after you eat. You're such a nuisance." There were banging sounds on the monitor. That was the sound of Wu Shoulian venting her dissatisfaction. At first, afraid that I would see, Wu Shoulian always pinched him. She pinched the inside of Wu Jianqiu's thighs and the inside of his arms until they were red and purple. Last time, I deliberately lifted the quilt. She was so scared that she quickly explained, "My big cousin's body always turns blue like this. Maybe he's been lying down for too long." I quickly said that it wasn't her fault. It was normal for bed-ridden patients to have some problems. I could understand. 15. Because of my indulgence, Wu Shoulian became even more unscrupulous. Sometimes I even wanted to applaud her. She was really ruthless. When she didn't want to clean up the excrement and urine, she wouldn't give Wu Jianqiu anything to eat or drink. In 2 days, Wu Jianqiu was dehydrated and on the verge of death. I quickly went there once. After all, it wouldn't be fun if he died too quickly. Wu Shoulian was lazy and played online mahjong all day long. She didn't turn Wu Jianqiu over. In less than a week, Wu Jianqiu developed bed sores. Wu Jianqiu was in so much pain that he howled through the incised trachea. His voice was distorted and filled with anger. This only brought him another round of slaps. But after all, I'm a kind-hearted person. I went there again to bring some medicine for Wu Jianqiu. Looking at Wu Jianqiu's emaciated face, I called out to him, "Honey, when will you get better? I'm almost at the end of my rope." Wu Jianqiu's face was distorted, and tears welled up in his eyes and fell in strings. He looked so pitiful. I endured the nausea and got close to him. After all, Wu Shoulian hadn't bathed him for a month. The excrement and urine on his body mixed together, giving off a stench. "Honey, does the bed sores feel good? Now it's only grade 2, not painful enough. It's said that this disease will rot to the bone and make people want to commit suicide, but I can't bear to let you die. You haven't suffered enough yet." After saying that, I left. During this period, my mother-in-law went to see Wu Jianqiu twice. When she saw her son's miserable state, she fainted directly. She rushed to my company to argue with me. "Du Yan, you're really heartless. How could you let Wu Shoulian take care of Shishu? She's a well-known scoundrel among our relatives. She's lazy, greedy, and cunning. How could she treat Shishu well?" I looked at her coldly. So she knew that Wu Shoulian was unreliable, but she let Wu Jianqiu send my daughter into the fire pit. So what could I say today? One word: deserved. Before she could say anything else, I suggested, "Mom, since you're so distressed about Shishu, why don't you take him back and take care of him yourself? You know, I really don't have the energy. Hiring a nanny to take care of him is already the limit of my kindness." My mother-in-law trembled and couldn't say a word. She came less and less often. Maybe it was out of sight, out of mind. Or maybe, as the rumors said, she had depression. I really didn't have the time to find out, because I had more important things to do. 16. On the weekend, I wore a brand name casual outfit and came to an internet cafe. Xiaoying gave me the information that Wu Jianqiu's few good-for-nothing friends often came here recently. As soon as I entered the door, I saw him, Chen Yang. In my previous life, it was he who introduced that woman to Wu Jianqiu and also fanned the flames to persuade Wu Jianqiu to send Nini away. Brother Su, Xiaotao is so nice. If you miss her, you won't be able to find someone like her again. Can you let a big girl be a stepmother? Then you can find a divorced woman. Both of them have children and live together, don't dislike each other. Seeing that Wu Jianxiu was wavering, he continued to incite him. It's just a daughter. Let Xiaodao give you another one. Have a son. My brother Su is so amazing. He'll definitely get her pregnant in one go. You have to have your own child to have a stable family. The stupid Wu Jianxiu actually believed it and treated that woman like a treasure. In fact, he became a cheap father. Chen Yang and Xiaodao had long been having an affair, but both of them were idle and couldn't even support themselves. Fortunately, Wu Jianxiu became the sucker, so he was also to blame for harming my daughter. How could I let him go? 17. I flashed in front of him, and he came over obsequiously and called me as sister. In law, saying, how's my brother? I've been really busy recently and haven't had the time to visit him. I played with the curls by my ear and said sadly, your brother is definitely not going to make it. He's just hanging on by a thread. Alas, this is my brother's fate, sister. In law, you've done your best. Everyone in our circle knows your deep affection for my brother. Even though he's like that, you still insist on not giving up. I often tell my buddies that whoever marries you is really lucky. His arm touched mine intentionally or unintentionally. I didn't dodge and gave him a charming smile, but without a man by my side. It's really hard for me, a woman. 7 days later, I looked at the messages on my phone. They were all from Chen Yang. On average, he sent 10 messages, and I replied to one. I kept him on tenterhooks. Finally, he couldn't hold it in and sent me a long essay. The general meaning was that he had admired me for a long time, but before, because I was his buddy's wife, he couldn't express his feelings. Now he wanted to take care of our daughter. I smiled. The fish had taken the bait. 18. I occasionally had dinner with Chen Yang, maintaining a lukewarm and ambiguous relationship with him. I often talked to him about my company's business and showed off my wealth. By the way. After a few interactions, he was so eager that he became more and more attentive to me. I finally gave him a little. That day, I opened my heart to him and said that the company was short of a trustworthy person who knew the inside story. He immediately volunteered. I shook my head. It has to be a woman. With your brother lying there, if I have a man by my side, people will talk. He immediately said that he had a sister who was just right, so I met Su Taodao. As soon as Su Taodao came, I took the initiative to hold her hand, and gave Chen Yang an ambiguous look. Taodao, you were introduced by Chen Yang, so you're like family. My company is short of a cashier. I really don't feel at ease using an outsider. You come. She looked a little dilemma, sister, but I don't know how. It doesn't matter if you don't know, I'll have someone teach you. You can earn money and learn skills in my company. I glanced at Chen Yang and said considerately, we women still have to have our own skills to make a living, don't you think so? She visited my company enviously. Yeah. I wish I could be as capable as you, sister. Someday, you're Chen Yang's sister. We're all family. Chen Yang immediately came up to me and put his arm around my waist. I swatted his hand away playfully. Naughty, with a quick turn, I didn't miss the triumphant glances they exchanged. 19. I strung Chen Yang along for 2 months, spending money on him, flirting with him, but never letting him touch me. He was so impatient that he kept asking me how we could take our relationship to the next level. I pouted at him. Wu Jianxiu is still alive. I'm a traditional woman. I won't have a physical relationship with you unless we get married. His eyes lit up at the mention of marriage. After all, getting married meant sharing wealth together, which was much more reliable than just dating. He immediately expressed his stance. I'm also a traditional man. I can't wait to be with you forever. I looked at him with a longing expression, then feigned regret. You'd better not wait for me. Your brother Su still has a breath left. It's really hard to say when that breath will be gone. It could be a year or 2, or maybe 3 or 5 years, you know. There are cases of vegetative patients waking up more than 20 years later on the internet. Maybe he'll suddenly get better someday. He was taken aback, and a glint of malice flashed in his eyes. Sure enough, not long after, he proposed to go and see his brother Su. I naturally agreed. Pleading busyness, I gave him the address and told him to go by himself. 20. I was a bit surprised that Wu Jianxiu died so quickly. I thought Chen Yang would come up with some other methods, but I overestimated him. When I received the news of Wu Jianxiu's death, Chen Yang was overjoyed and offered to help me with the funeral arrangements. My in-laws cried until they fainted and cursed me as a venomous woman. I didn't care at all. I directly asked the doctor for an autopsy. Chen Yang froze on the spot. Looking flustered, is it necessary? He was already so seriously ill, he was going to die sooner or later. What's the point of an autopsy? I looked at him and smiled, even if he was a paralytic. He was still alive. If you kill him, you have to pay with your life. Chen Yang's face turned deathly pale. He took several steps back and then turned around and ran. He hadn't run 200 meters before he was caught by the arriving police. Of course, this was my doing. As soon as Wu Jianxiu passed away, I took the surveillance video to the police. In the video, it was clear that when Chen Yang went to see Wu Jianxiu, he brought a bottle of mineral water. After that, he chatted and laughed with Wu Xiulian for a long time in whispers. Wu Xiulian used a syringe to feed the water Chen Yang brought to Wu Jianxiu. During this process, Wu Xiulian even said, If this were poison, it would be a relief for him. Chen Yang laughed loudly. That's right, he and I are good buddies. I'm just giving him a hand and sending him on his way. In the video, Wu Jianxiu could be seen screaming in horror. It turned out that a person's will to survive could be so strong, even though he was no longer human. Like, he still didn't want to die. Unfortunately, there was no way out. Chen Yang had fed him paraquat, 100 milliliters, a sure, death dose. After the autopsy results came out, I sued both Chen Yang and Wu Xiulian in court. 21. Chen Yang wasn't stupid. He immediately realized that he had been set up by me, in court. He insisted that he was in a relationship with me and that he had killed Wu Jianxiu at my instigation. There was no way out. Chen Yang had fed him paraquat, 100 milliliters, a sure, death dose. After the autopsy results came out, I sued both Chen Yang and Wu Xiulian in court. 21. Chen Yang wasn't stupid. He immediately realized that he had been set up by me, in court. He insisted that he was in a relationship with me and that he had killed Wu Jianxiu at my instigation. I handed over the long chat records between Chen Yang and me to the police. From the chat records, it could be seen that I rarely replied to him and he had been pestering me. I had repeatedly stated that I had a husband and that I couldn't have anything to do with him, but he had been persistently pursuing me. At the same time, the staff of my company could also testify. Moreover, my insistence on treating Wu Jianxiu before was also regarded as a symbol of our good marital relationship. All the ambiguous words I had said to him were spoken secretly when only the two of us were together. He had no evidence. I never expected that my father-in-law and mother-in-law would stand up as witnesses in court. They testified against me for abusing Wu Jianxiu. This bitch must have someone else outside. She abused my son and asked us for the house. She's not a good person. I just looked at them innocently. I presented Wu Jianxiu's WeChat chat records to the judge. In the records, there were all kinds of scolding from my mother-in-law towards me. Right after I gave birth, my mother-in-law said, I asked a fortune, tell her about Du Yan. The master said that with a table-sized family, she needs to give birth to 4 daughters before she can have a son. You should divorce her quickly. When the child was less than 100 days old, she's had enough rest. The Zhang family's daughter-in-law had 2 sons in 3 years, both boys. Du Yan thinks she's a princess. Why doesn't she hurry up and give the Wu family a son? Your wife is greedy and lazy. When I went there, she only cooked 6 dishes for me. Doesn't she know that 8 means prosperity and 10 means perfection? She has no manners. Son, if you really don't want to divorce, mom will find you a woman who can give birth to a son. After she gives birth, bring the child back to raise. If Du Yan dares to say no, kick her out. The judge frowned while reading, and my mother-in-law's face turned green and white. Actually, I had seen these records a long time ago, but at that time, Wu Jianxiu and I had a good relationship. For the harmony of the family, I endured it all. Now that the old woman was actually accusing me, it was just the right time to let everyone see her true face. After Wu Jianxiu was cremated, the old woman held on to her last bit of strength and fought me for the ashes. She wanted to send Wu Jianxiu to the family cemetery to be laid to rest. When I heard this, I wasn't too happy. Why should he be laid to rest in peace? I directly lifted the lid and poured the ashes into the trash can of a roadside restaurant. Let the stray dogs in this area get some calcium supplements. It could be considered his merit. The old woman was like a deflated balloon. She slumped by the trash can, shedding tears as she picked up the ashes bit by bit. I suddenly felt a bit sorry for her. It was so pitiful, this love of a mother for her son. But in my previous life, who pitted me, who pitted my daughter? 22. In the end, Chen Yang was sentenced to life imprisonment for intentional homicide in the first instance trial. Wu Xiulian, as an accomplice, was sentenced to 17 years and 8 months. Since Chen Yang was arrested, Tao Tao had been very uneasy. Chen Yang's creditors all came to her to ask for money. She visibly became haggard. I deliberately asked the finance department to relax the supervision of her. As a cashier, she could access a large amount of the company's funds. The chief accountant told her the successful cases of cashiers embezzling public funds every now and then. Finally, when handling a sum of funds, she made a move. At first, she just embezzled public funds to buy financial products and earn some interest. She got away with it once or twice, and her get bigger and bigger. Finally, when she embezzled 12 million yuan of the company's funds, I called the police. After all, if she embezzled a small amount, she would only be sentenced to 3 or 2 years, which really wouldn't relieve my hatred. In the end, Su Taotao embezzled a particularly large amount of public funds and was sentenced to 17 years. It was just right for her to go in and keep her sister Wu company. That was quite good. At 23. Everything had finally come to an end, and my company's business was booming. I became a well-known female entrepreneur in the city. At the end of the year, when being interviewed by a magazine, the host asked me, in the past, the label everyone gave you was strong. I want to know what supported you to get through so many hardships. I thought for a while and answered firmly, my daughter. You must have heard that saying, a child is both a weakness and an armor. Because of her, I became invincible. He smiled and nodded. Then may I ask what your wish is for the new year? Without hesitation, I said, I have only one wish, not just for this year, but for every year and every day in the future. I only have this one wish. I hope my daughter can grow up healthily and safely. And I can accompany her for a long, long time. The host looked at me tenderly. I think your wish will definitely come true. Yes, I believe this wish will definitely come true, my precious one. You be healthy and safe. I'll accompany you to grow up.